Welcome to this webinar by Real Pro Systems. Today we're joined by Don Dehanas, who shares his secret to his success on how he grew his business and productivity. For those of you who don't know Don, let me just give you a quick introduction to his history. He has over 15 years of retail and corporate retail management experience and has been a licensed real estate agent since 1997. Don also holds designation with the Council of Residential Specialists, the Graduate Realtor Institute, and a certified negotiation expert. And he has been instrumental in the effective marketing that has helped the Dehanas Team reach highly successful status in the national real estate community. Don's brokerage focuses on real estate in the Washington, D.C. and Southern Maryland regions. He's certified as a distressed property educator and has been very successful in helping many families avoid foreclosure. Don is also a member of the cadre of Star Power Stars, where he plays a role in the education of best business practices to real estate professionals from around the country. Well, welcome, Don, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to jump into the first question here. Can you give us some background on how you came to be a real estate agent?
I often say that I was born into the industry. My mom and dad are both agents. They're actually agents in Florida right now, but back when they lived in Maryland, at the time I lived in Atlanta, and I was looking at doing some investing with my wife, and we called one afternoon to ask some advice, and before the phone call was over, we had been talked into moving back to Maryland and starting a real estate sales team.
Wow, so they're very persuasive.
Yeah, so they were very persuasive. My first day as a licensee was spent at a seminar on team building and really focused on what kind of systems we needed to put in place to make a difference. My mom had been doing about anywhere from $10 to $13 million a year consistently for 6 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. And once we finished learning what systems that we needed to put in place, we ended up doing 26 million the next year, 32, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. It's been a great experience.
So you jumped straight into building out a brokerage, basically.
Well, we started off in a traditional environment. We worked for a regional real estate company as a sales team within the company. We soon outgrew that and ended up going to a national real estate company, and within a couple of years, we had grown enough that we decided we wanted to do our own thing. So we've been under our own brokerage for the past 17 years.
Fantastic. Well, that covers my next question, how long we've been in business. So that is a very long time. That's exciting. So it sounds like your brokerage company came along fairly naturally.
Well, we all kind of fell into our own niche at that point. My niche was marketing. My wife's niche was listing and working with buyers. My mom obviously was the rainmaker, and my dad wore the CEO hat.
Got it.
But it didn't stop there. At some point, we ended up with 12 family members all working together.
That's exciting.
So it grew fairly large.
Well, it's always good to have family help out. So I normally would ask, when you first realized you needed a website, but did your parents already have a site with Real Pro Systems, or did you stumble upon Real Pro Systems later?
That's kind of a neat question based on when I got into the business. When I got into the business, the need for websites, I think, was really just being realized at that point. The first day I walked into our real estate brokerage, I noticed that no agents had computers on their desks. There was one computer for the office. My mom actually was the only one with a computer on her desk. Wow. And at that time, we did not have a website. And it wasn't too long, within a couple of months after I joined, we started talking on the topic of, hey, we need to put a site together. We need to start some lead generation. And we found that to be a little bit of a challenge because no one in the area really had a website, and we didn't quite know where to go to at first.
Yeah.
My brother is a former NASA network engineer, and he helped facilitate us getting our first website together.
Wow, you got very lucky. I remember back then I was going to school for graphic design in about 96, and that's right when the public started realizing that they needed websites. But I know that the real estate industry was much later. But that's great. You had your brother-in-law to fall back on?
My brother.
Oh, your brother.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's even better because I kind of got you guys ahead of the game that you
Yeah.
accessed him right away to get at least something up online.
Yeah. Within about a year after that, we hired him away from NASA because we realized we needed some kind of technical infrastructure, and he was the supplier for that. There was also no database management programs at that point. He built us a system we called Team Tools, which was designed to capture leads. It provided us with a database that we could use for maintaining our clients, taking notes, and that type of thing. So that was kind of the first generation system for us.
That's highly advanced. That's impressive.
Yeah, well, and what ended up happening over the years as technology changed, it got harder and harder to kind of keep up with having to redefine that site.
Yes.
So we started looking at other avenues. We looked at, I think, 2 or 3 different systems that would help us maintain that, and we never really found one that worked. So we actually used a couple at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That sounds frustrating, trying to keep up with the technology while you're trying to sell real estate. I've often found that agents will try to manage your own system initially and kind of bits and pieces together, and at the end, the amount of time they spend dealing with technology takes away their time from dealing with the clients. So in order to avoid those frustrations, is that when you seeked out a system provider and came upon Real Pro Systems?
Well, we got introduced to Real Pro Systems through our association with the Star Power Group and Howard Brenton. Mm-hmm. And I don't recall what year that was in. It may have been, when did Real Pro Systems start?
Real Pro Systems was started around 2004.
Yep, that was when we were introduced to Real Pro Systems, and we got into it, I think, probably from the very beginning. I kind of feel like our brokerage grew up about the same time that Real Pro Systems grew up.
Yeah, definitely. That's very exciting. So in the system, I'm wondering, do you actually utilize it yourself, or does someone on your team use it more? Sounds like you might be busy doing other things.
I use it every single day. One of my favorite features is the launch pad, where I can view what kind of web activity is going on now, and it also helps me to see how effective our current marketing strategies are.
Great.
So many of the marketing strategies have transitioned into almost real-time marketing, particularly with social networking. You can post an ad and immediately get a response on your site. Mm-hmm. And so that launch pad helps me gauge what kind of response I'm getting from specific ads.
Yeah, that is very important. And obviously you have a marketing background, so you understand this 100% is, when you start to create marketing plans, you first need a website that can capture the people. A lot of agents just want to post stuff on Facebook and leave it in that silo, which I think is dangerous. You want to get their information on your website. So the fact that you can see people coming to your site, seeing them fill out forms, knowing that's working, that real-time data is super imperative to making decisions on marketing. It sounds like you got that one down. And then, so you obviously the launching pad for landing page. Sounds like you use the VisoStat tools. Any other tools in your system that you feel have been highly beneficial for your business needs?
Well, since we were one of the first ones in our area to begin lead generation and capturing email addresses, we have a fairly large email database, approaching 30,000 emails. I know it's
that
amazing.
Is really impressive, actually.
We have a newsletter goes out. I think this morning I did 12,000. It goes out every week. I've got a separate database that I've been building on agents that show my listings. Mm-hmm. That's up to almost 2,800, and that goes out on a regular basis. And all of those email blasts, I can look at the Launchpad and know immediately what kind of response I'm getting.
That's even better. And that's something else I don't think business owners in general don't quite understand, or at least haven't realized the importance of an email list. And you're right. I figured that out in marketing for Real Pro over the last 2 years. And a lot of people drop the digital social media terms so often. And they kind of forget that, that's just like a tap on someone's shoulder saying, hi, we're here. And once again,
Exactly.
you want to get their information in your database so you can contact them whenever you want.
Yeah, we've got probably 10 or 12 different separate lists. Now, some people, of course, appear on multiple lists, but about 10 or 12 separate lists.
That's great. And the newsletter, is that the Monday morning coffee that goes out?
Yes, I use newsletter. I know I've got the option to create my own, and I think I've done that one time.
Mm-hmm.
But the Real Pro newsletter is perfect for what I need. Of course, I can feature a home on there whenever I want to, but I just use the Real Pro newsletter.
Yeah, it's a nice thing that Real Pro offers. So it allows you to have more relevant content that is across the board, that can go to anyone in any state. And it makes it look like you guys are still keeping in touch with them without you guys having to lift a finger. So that's kind of nice. And that comes out
Right.
once every Monday. So once you got your Real Pro Systems site up and running the way that you wanted it to, how does it impact your day-to-day business and activity?
Well, I saw early on what I was generating just from having the site, and I started adding some of the other features that Real Pro offers, like the various stealth sites, valuation site. I've got a foreclosure site, a short sale site, a bank-owned, and a new construction site is one that I just added. And all of those generate leads for us. Additionally, the other feature that I really like is the ability to build my own searchable landing pages.
Oh, the IDX? Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a great feature, and it's been very beneficial to a lot of agents on their SEO.
Yeah, it allows me to create a niche piece with very little effort, quite frankly. And some of the pieces that I've created that have gotten great results are school zone specific home searches, homes with swimming pools gets a lot of activity, rental properties, rent to own type searches get a lot of activity as well.
That's really smart because most people, and I know this from my own experience as I moved from LA to Eugene, Oregon 5 years ago, and we just had a kid, and that was the first thing I looked up was, homes in school districts or homes in high quality school districts. And so
Right.
if I was looking in your neighborhood, I'm sure I would have seen you.
Well, what's interesting about our area is that the school zones are really not what you would expect them to be. For example, you may live in a neighborhood and drive past a high school to get to your high school. So knowing what properties are in what school zones is a huge advantage when you're a buyer looking for a specific zone. And that information is not readily available.
That's true. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of the school districts, and they definitely keep a tight lid on their information, which makes sense. But yeah, the fact that you were able to create something on your own site is great. And once again, it goes back to the whole idea of like you spend a lot of time putting together information, helping the home seller, home buyer. You want to house that on your site, so you get all the credit, you get the interest, they can see your listings. The more and more they see your brand, the more prominent you will be. So do you have any stats you'd be willing to share with us on how RPS has helped your business's bottom line?
I can tell you a year ago, we went to the Platinum system, and it allowed us a whole lot more creativity, and our business jumped 52% in the last year, in part with the creativity that we were able to utilize from the Real Pro system.
Wow, 52% in 1 year. That's an astonishing return. And that just shows the power of our Platinum system. It just helps you manage everything. For a team, even sometimes, like two busy agents or a single agent that's incredibly busy, they can actually seem like a brokerage if they have the system working for them. So that's kind of an impressive part of it too.
Quite frankly, if a single agent had this system, they would quickly have to have a team because of the amount of business it generates.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that'd be an interesting test subject. Maybe we should reach out to someone who's a single agent, look into bringing some multiple business. Be like, hey, let's see what happens.
Yeah. There are days where my agents will come to me, and I have 20 agents now. There are days where I'll have agents come to me and they'll say, "Can you hold off on the leads? I'm getting too many. And I love those telemarketing calls that I get now from various lead generation companies that ask me if I need more leads, and I quite frankly let them know I'm with Real Pro Systems. I don't need one more lead.
You're like, my agents are drowning in leads. We're trying to juggle them, actually. What you need is to hire another person. Well, that's a good problem to have, so I'm glad to hear that. And I was just looking over some reviews you have online. So I just kind of wanted to mention some highlights on there and just kind of your insight on how you're able to achieve this level of success. There's one here by Nancy McDonald mentioning, I'm buying multiple properties with Steve as my agent. So I'm assuming that's one of your team members. I'd highly recommend Dehanas and Steve because they just get things done and keep you in the loop about buying and selling real estate in Maryland, particularly Baltimore.
Yeah, so Baltimore is a whole new venture for us. It's actually about an hour and a half away from where our office is. There's some properties in Baltimore that you can't get anywhere else in the area. So I started investing in Baltimore rentals, and we turned some other folks onto it. And now, as a result, I started a property management company just for Baltimore rentals that has grown quite a bit. I've even developed one of the email lists I have in the Real Pro system is specifically for Baltimore rentals. That's helped me grow that part of the business, and that's a new venture for us this year.
Well, that's highly creative. So I'm glad to hear you're using the drip campaigns and the RPS system to keep your Baltimore rental properties up to date and reaching out to those people as a good way to utilize the tools you already have at hand that have been successful for you. So going on to the next testimonial, Jessica Buchanan says, my husband and I highly recommend Dehanas Real Estate Service for any of your real estate needs. When we bought our townhome in 2009, the staff there helped us every step of the way. Now, 6 years later, they helped us sell that same home. So it sounds like you're getting repeat business. That's even better.
Yeah, and staying in touch with your past customers and clients is huge. And the email drip capabilities that the system offers and not only helps to cultivate leads into actual buyers and sellers, but it also helps us stay in touch with our past clients. That's been a huge benefit as well.
Yeah, and that staying relevant is what keeps you in top of mind. So love that. And the last one here, I have Shanna Granby mentioned David was the third realtor. I had 8 months. The other agents were from other companies, and that's a whole different type of review. I left. And he was the only agent that took the time to find out what I wanted and not just trying to sell a house. He made me feel like I wasn't just looking at a house, but a home. And that really speaks to paying attention to the client and their needs.
You know what's interesting about that one is that buyer responded to one of the Real Pro posts that we put on Facebook. So that came directly from social networking. And since we've closed her home, she's referred 2 more buyers to us.
Wow.
And yeah.
That's repeat business, word of mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's super strong. It's like an instant guarantee of a home seller, home buyer. I love reading these reviews. So the last question I have for you, because I know you're busy. So do you have any advice you could pass on to other agents? Something you'd probably want to hear maybe 10, 20 years ago?
There's a lot to say about taking your time and building a foundation. The little things like making sure that you've got the right systems in place, that you've got your profile and your photo are up to date on all the various sites. By putting a system like Real Pro in place early on and then building from it. The interesting thing about the Real Pro site is that it grows and grows and grows, whatever you want to put into it. You can constantly add pages, blog pages, and so on. That kind of thing doesn't happen overnight. You have to take the time to do it, and it's baby steps. So don't feel overwhelmed right up front with what somebody else has going on. Build your own business at your pace.
Well, that is very sound advice. Agents who are in this for long haul and going to become successful need to put the time and invest into a system and build out their content so they become more and more relevant online. And I think the information you share with the agents, letting them know that it's better to start with a system that has all the tools you need instead of bits and piecing it together. So many agents we've come across have had such a headache with this. And then they're thrilled when they find something like Real Pro Systems, where it's an all-in-one system for lead generation, management, and incubation.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. The agents today don't have to do what those of us had to do, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's all together now for them. And you've got a system in place that allows you to manage your business and your systems without having to piece things together or do it manually. And Real Pro offers that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure.
All right. Take care.
Have a great day.
So that concludes our webinar presentation, and let's just jump into the questions we have now. Let's see, I have one from Tina here, and she was wondering, how long did it take to start seeing a return on lead engagement when you started using Real Pro Systems?
Some of them were relatively immediate. I think a lot of it depends on what ad you're originally posting. For example, folks with more immediate needs tend to be renters, and renters don't always just rent. So, by marketing to renters, you get the opportunity to turn those folks into other kinds of business. If you're in an area that is prone to short sales, and because they haven't all dried up, we pick one up about every week or so. There's a lot of people that are moving to rentals because they're getting out of short sale situations, and it's an opportunity to pick up listings immediately. So we're finding immediate business, and then of course there's your what we call C and D buyers, that are buyers and sellers that are probably 12 months to 24 months away, and the email drip campaigns help to continue cultivating those. I'll get an agent that will tell me, maybe once or twice a month, hey, I haven't talked to this person in about 12 months, and all of a sudden they're ready to buy a house. This system really works. So I've known that it works because I've worked with it a long time. But when you get a new agent that is working with leads that they don't feel are going anywhere at first, just keep in mind there's a lot of behind-the-scenes activity going on that you don't have to do because of the constant drip that's going on.
Yeah, and that is helpful for agents because you guys, like I said, are really busy on just dealing with clients and showing them homes. That's what you do well, and so the system just kind of takes care of keeping them engaged with you. So, and I see that you do have a renters stealth site, and that has prompted in lead generation. So that gets them on the drip campaign that you created for them.
Yeah, one of the IDX pages that I built out, that is fairly popular. There is a national rent-to-own company that you can get renters to apply with, and they can actually move into a house that you get credit for selling right now. Oh. And so one of the ads that I put together was based on that principle, and that is probably one of the more popular rental ads that I do.
Okay, that's good to know. And another question here from Ryan. Say, what type of marketing did you do to build your email list?
Yeah, I'm relatively obsessive about building my email database, but with the Platinum system, they've got the ability to pull in all of your Zillow, Trulia, any leads that come through those platforms will automatically get populated into your database, and it automatically captures their information, and it automatically sets them up for a newsletter. So that portion of it really does it by itself. Any responses to any ads I've ever had, those emails automatically go into the database.
Yeah, that helps a
Any
lot.
inquiry, yeah, it really does. So I do on my blog, I've got a, a lengthy list of restaurant reviews for local restaurants, and I'll ask people if you want more information or the the latest information on restaurants in the area. I get emails that way. So
Mhm.
it's from a variety of different things, not really one thing in particular.
And that's another nice feature is the leads are directly routed into the system. I've talked to other business owners where they have to go and export manually from systems and import them into their whatever CRM they have, and it's time consuming and it takes a lot for you guys to bring in leads. I mean, it's timely, it's costly, and you just don't want to lose any of those leads. So that feature there really helps you maintain all that.
Yeah, sometimes it's just as simple as a like me on Facebook kind of thing, and you just ask for it and people give it to you.
True, that does help. And then I have a question. Oh,
Don, excuse me. This is Rick Headley. I just have a question. You had mentioned your one client that referred a couple people to you right away. A lot of agents I deal with I don't think understand how much money is hiding in their database.
Yeah.
And so one question I have for you is, are you doing anything unique or specific to farm your sphere of influence, past clients, or anything like that with the Real Pro system, either through blast, drips, or otherwise?
Well, I feel like your sphere of influence is a real compact group, a small group of people that are constantly giving you referrals, and it's something that changes on a regular basis. The database also includes those folks. So I really do kind of two things. The sphere is contacted, within the Real Pro system, but I also do some things outside of that system to keep in touch with those folks. By and large, though, I don't really have time to do a whole lot, so I rely on the email drips and the weekly blasts to maintain that communication.
Okay, thanks.
And there's another question from Mark. So which stealth site gives you the best return on leads? You obviously mentioned you have, I think it was 4 or 5. Is there one in particular,
Yes.
or is it all of them usually together?
It some of it depends on the time of year. My valuation stealth site is pulling in quite a bit right now. My bank-owned site where people can request a list of bank-owned properties, that's always been very active. So both of those are probably my two most actives. My short sale site has fallen off a little bit in activity, but I think we'll continue to see that decline as the market recovers.
And that's pretty smart getting those multiple stealth sites. I mean, it kind of keeps you seasonal as far as bringing in leads or what's happening, socially. So it's good to hear that you utilize that. And you're right. I mean, you did utilize the system very creatively. So it's exciting to hear what you've done over the past, 17 years. Let's see, Carmen is also wondering, so which tools in your system do you spend the most time on?
Which what?
Which tools in your system do you spend the most time on, or do you recommend people to utilize, or do you mention, or do you, suggest using all of them at once?
It's whatever. I don't use them all every day consistently. I'm in it every day using different things. My favorites again are the ability to build out a niche site. You can immediately see the results of your work and your creativity. And so if I have an idea that pops in my head, I'll go to the IDX site and just kind of pop out a new landing page. And you can be as creative as your MLS search allows you to be. So anything that you can search for in MLS, you can create a page for. So if it's homes with swimming pools, which happens to be one of my most popular ones, that took me all of maybe 5 minutes to put together, and I think I posted it. Let's see, I posted it in a blog, and I did a Facebook post on it, and I've got it somewhere else in my site as a link. And that was last spring, and I still get stuff. I still get people on it today. Now, when you're creating these pages, you've got the ability to, in order to capture that business, you've got the ability to dictate if it's a forced registration or not. I allow the folks to look at the first 2 pages before they're forced to provide me with their email address.
Now, have you played around with those options? I know RPS allows you to kind of, adjust the amount of times they can view a page until you request them to send you their information.
I haven't really deviated from the forced registration after the first 2. I know that you can do it. I just haven't done it.
Oh, I guess you got it right the first time then. Well, wonderful.
And I love that you're using that hyper local strategy. A lot of our clients don't realize how powerful that is, but I coach clients that I've worked with since, oh gosh, the late 90s to do that all the time, and I'm finding great Google indexing for that. Just one quick example, I have a client who wanted to increase his average listing price. And so we did exactly what you're saying, but we did it for homes over 500,000 in his market. And when anyone searches for homes over 500,000 in his market, his landing page that he created within his website comes up at the top of the Google search now for that. And so we're finding that as you define these really unique niches, it's allowing you to compete with the Zulia, right, with Zillow, Trulia, because they're hitting the top zip codes and things like that. They have power over cities. But when you can do homes near Smith School or Smith Elementary and things like that, that's indexing really well, and it's bringing traffic to the site.
Yeah, and I'd like to kind of piggyback on that. This really allows you to look a lot more technically savvy than you are, because I'm not at all. So I realize that this presentation makes me look that way, but I'm not. So really, the average person can do this. It's that easy.
Yeah, that's very true. I remember when I first started Real Pro, my whole history is graphic design, and when I showed up there and saw the system, I contemplated for a while just becoming a real estate agent, because the system was so beautifully, put together. I was like, wow, this is, this could easily bring in lead generation and help me bring home buyers and home sellers, but I just don't have the patience that agents have. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that it's working well for you. I have another question from Phil. It's how do you advertise your stealth sites?
I use those just like I do with the landing pages. I'll boost them on my Facebook business page. I've done a blog post on every stealth site that I've got, and if there's a blog subject that I put together, then I usually will insert that link for the stealth site. Okay. I know there's other ways. I used to do it in the paper, and quite frankly, paper advertising, you can't even tell anymore if it's effective. You could, to a point, when you were advertising your stealth site in the paper, if somebody actually logged on to it, but I really wasn't getting that much return on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we have one agent that does some newspaper advertising here and there, and it seems like the only way he can really tell is if he gets phone calls around that day that it was released, and kind of guess or assume. So
right.
Usually online stuff, you can obviously get better reporting and seeing what's working and what isn't. So I'm glad to use it that way. And I also want to mention when you mentioned how you do IDX pages for homes with pools and other things like that, and how you put it not only on your community page, but you put it in your blog, and you push on Facebook. And that's another smart angle on marketing. It's, once again, you spend a lot of time building your content. So just recycling it wherever you can just helps with engaging people in different ways and different options for links. And it also does help with your SEO over time. So let's see if you have any more questions coming in. looks like that wraps it up. All right. Well, thank you everyone again for joining, and we hope you found this webcast informative. And thank you, Don and Rick, for joining.
My pleasure.
All right. Take care, everyone.